All right, welcome to the HuntLeague Podcast. Today we are talking about fitness, archery, and preparing for backcountry hunts. I have a special guest joining the HuntLeague Podcast that I know will inspire you. He is the founder of Beast Mode Archery Challenge in Wisconsin. So I'm going to share an image that I pulled from the Beast Mode website that you can see if you're joining us via YouTube or if you're just on the audio podcast. Here is what it says about Beast Mode. Welcome to the world of Beast Mode Archery Challenge, where archery, fitness, and bow hunting intersect. We cater to those aiming to become premier bow hunters or seeking peak physical fitness for their next hunting expedition. Our events are designed to provide an exhilarating and demanding experience, preparing participants for the physical and mental rigors of hunting. Embark on an adventure with Beast Mode Archery Challenge, where the thrill of the hunt meets the challenge of the bow. It's not just an event, it's a journey toward mastering the art of archery and embracing the spirit of the wild. I love it, and I couldn't be more excited to welcome today's podcast guest, Brian Austin. Brian, thanks for joining us today.
You bet. I appreciate this, Jarrett, and that's quite the introductions.
You know, I don't normally read a long intro like that. Usually we just jump right in, but I loved everything that you said. When I first reached out to you a couple years ago, I was just starting the HuntLeague app. And when I saw what you were doing in Wisconsin, I was like, man, this is somebody that shares DNA with me. Like, I love the physical fitness stuff. I love the punishment of what backcountry hunts bring. I'm a glutton for punishment. Like, if you ask me what type of hunt I would want, it's like, man, take me farther and deeper. Let me see what's over that next ridge. That's just my personality. And then when I saw what you guys were doing, integrating the fitness and archery component, I just loved it, reached out to you, and man, I love what you are doing. So as we get started, I just want you to give us a little history. I mean, you've been a training coach for the last 20 years. So give me a little bit of your background specifically on the fitness and training stuff before we kind of merge that with hunting and archery.
Yeah, you bet. Well, like you said, I've been training individuals now for over 20 years as a personal trainer. I do classes. I do a lot of one-on-one stuff. Worked with all different types of abilities from, your elite athletes, even some Olympic level athletes, to the average Joe or Sally that's just looking to be fit and be healthier, from ages of as young as 8 to as old as in their 90s. So it's kind of all across the board. My niche here lately has obviously been kind of the bow hunter, or just the hunter in general, and helping them prepare for their hunts, whether it be out west or Alaska or just here in the Midwest too. I mean, everybody has their own goals, and that's what's super cool about working with bow hunters, is that we're all like-minded, but we have different objectives to accomplish. But in terms of my training background, I've been in the industry now long enough that I've seen a lot of different fads and things come and go. Not saying that CrossFit's a fad. It's definitely not a fad, but everything from the CrossFit to the functional training to your traditional bodybuilding to endurance training, kind of all that stuff. And there are definitely things that do work better than others. And it's really comes down to tailoring somebody's fitness program specifically to them. Yeah.
Now, did you have a specific background in athletics? Did you were you a baseball guy, football guy, basketball, any specific kind of athletic background that got you started in the fitness arena?
Yeah. I guess in school, I was a football player and a track athlete. And then as I guess got into college and out of college, I started to do mountain bike racing, and kind of myself transitioned from being more of a power athlete and a sprinter to more of an endurance athlete with mountain bike racing and doing long events like 12 and 24-hour long events.
Oh, yeah.
which we're going to tie that into maybe some of the events that we're doing now. So definitely different training modalities and different energy systems that you're training, just like for a a long extended backcountry hunt. I dabbled a little bit into boxing as I got a little older, and learned that I probably should have started that much younger. But it was always, growing up in the 80s, it was, Rocky was my
100%, man.
Apollo
Creed.
I wanted to try it. It's like we had a local boxing and MMA studio that I had participated in and joined their boxing team and did that for a couple years. And just that type of training was really fascinating. Those athletes, you got to be quick, you got to be powerful, explosive, but then you also have to have the endurance to go, many, many rounds. So that was really interesting from the training perspective. And then after that, I got into the backcountry and, hunting and elk hunting and was kind of able to utilize all my personal experience in coming up with good programs for that, and then tying that into helping others that are, especially coming from here in Wisconsin in the Midwest. A lot of folks are wanting to go west for the first time and are overwhelmed and intimidated. I was intimidated at first, but you just got to break those objectives down and tackle them one at a time, and then it becomes very realistic and doable.
Here's what I love, and this might sound offensive for some Wisconsin folks, but when you guys have broken so many stereotypes of several of the people that I've hunted with from Wisconsin, but when I would say a couple years ago, thinking of like, what is your atypical Wisconsin hunter? I'm thinking a cheesehead, beer drinking, sitting in a stand, freezing their butt off, ice fishing, usually a little bit bigger round, holding on to some winter weight, just like, and are they very mobile? Are they even going to want to climb in the mountains? Like that was kind of the opposite. But I will tell you the last few years, I don't know that I've hunted in the last 4 years without hunting with somebody from Wisconsin out here in Colorado. Just this past year, I hunted with Tucker from Vortex and we did an elk hunt together. I ended up meeting up with some of his buddies in that upper right corner. A bunch of those guys are from Wisconsin as well. And then down below, I hunted with a family during rifle season, the Godwin family. They're a little bit north of you guys, kind of near that Eau Claire or Eclair, however you guys kind of say that. But I have found myself hunting more with Wisconsin folks, pushing deeper into the backcountry the last couple seasons than I ever imagined. And so I'm like, okay, these guys aren't all just big bellied cheeseheads that like to sit in deer stands. And so I love what you're doing, prepping flatlanders to come out and work their freaking tails off in the mountains. So we talked a little bit about your fitness background. What got you into hunting and when did that obsession really get started for you?
Man, I've been hunting basically my entire life. My dad was a hunter. So I grew up in a hunting family. You could say I've probably been hunting since I was an infant. We used to do a coon hunting with dogs. And I believe a story that my mom would say is that she carried me around. I was born in March. Coon season was October, November, December. So I wasn't even a year old and I was out in the woods, being carried around, chasing dogs and coons. I grew up in the era where you had to be 13. I believe it was 13, 12 or 13 to start hunting legally.
Yeah.
I didn't do that before. But you would definitely find me with a BB gun or a 22 or something going around shooting varmints and stuff like that at a very young age. I would go on the neighbor's farm and walk the creek bottoms and stuff and shoot birds that we probably weren't supposed to shoot, but
that you didn't know you couldn't shoot a blue jay.
Yeah, right.
I just thought you were.
I was ignorant to the fact. And then I got into bow hunting. I remember shooting my first deer with a bow. I think I was probably 12. I remember that very vividly. It was sitting in an old wooden stand. Back then if there were stands that we couldn't afford them, all I knew of was wooden stands that you had to make on your own with no safety harness. There's none of that stuff. So yeah, I've been hunting my entire life. There's been times obviously through high school and college where, that would kind of take a priority where I wasn't bow hunting. I was primarily just gun hunting for that week of gun season that we have here in Wisconsin. But then as soon as I could and as soon as my schedule allowed, I got back into archery. And really that's the primary method of hunting that I do now is with archery. Some, gun season, for a lot of us here in Wisconsin, it's just kind of a family tradition that you do with, family and friends and stuff. So.
And when did you start blending these two worlds? When did the fitness component and kind of the Western hunting and training for backcountry hunts, when did that stuff really begin to merge for you?
Yeah, it probably wasn't until maybe 2016 when I finally decided, myself and two other buddies were, one other guy is also his first time to go elk hunting. It's been, that was something, again, growing up here in Wisconsin, the Midwest, you watch the Sportsman's Channel, and you watch all these, Randy Newberg and the Fresh Tracks show, like, he would show you kind of how to do things and do it on public land and do it yourself. And so it was always kind of a burning desire that I had to do an elk hunt. And then, just the time came to do it, and just a lot of research, a lot of podcasts. My goodness gracious, I don't know how many podcasts and YouTube things that we watched back then to learn, how to do all that stuff, everything that when you do a backcountry hunt that you have to learn how to do. So it's probably 2016-ish is when I started to train and tailor kind of my lifestyle to match, going elk hunting and heading west. So.
Totally. And so when did you actually do your first elk hunt? And was your first elk hunt a bow hunt, a rifle hunt? Have you only done bow hunting when you've come west?
It's only been bow hunting except for one time. Like we did a cow hunt in Colorado.
Okay.
Right during I think second or third season rifle season. Other than that, it's been only archery. So I want to say it was 2016 or 2017. Then was the first year that we came west in Colorado and did a very long. I want to say it was a 13 or 14 day backcountry hunt. And because at that time it was the backcountry hunt. Well, that was like all the talk and what everybody was doing. And definitely looking back, and what I advise people that are going for the first time, I do not advise doing that. There's more ways to be more productive and to learn things and stuff like that than to spend 2 weeks in the same spot and it's just a lot of planning and preparation and stuff. But as I say that, it was a blast. Yeah. I definitely do want to do that again, to do an extended backcountry hunt. So
it's what got you hooked. I know you have several big events coming up this year. I'm going to pop that up. You guys just finished an event January 27th called the Quiver Shiver. Give me a little bit of a highlight what that event was, and then walk me through, you got 5 big events that Beast Mode Archery Challenge is hosting this year. So walk us through kind of what those events are all about and how people can participate with you.
Yeah, well, to start with, the Quiver Shiver was our second year doing that event. Last year was our first year, and kind of like you're saying, people from Wisconsin were just kind of crazy and nuts. And, technically around January 27th is historically the coldest time here in Wisconsin, where it's typically below zero. And so why not go outside and shoot our bows and run around like idiots, right? So that's been a fun event. This year is actually unseasonably warm. It was around 30 degrees. And it was kind of a multi-stage event, kind of like the BMAC Games that we'll get to. So it was a 2-mile ruck course where you're hiking, running, whatever you can do with a pack on, while shooting a couple targets on that course. The second stage is what we call a pursuit stage, where it's kind of a little bit more high intensity, quicker in duration. For that event, it was a sled drag to kind of mimic pulling the deer out of the woods that we do here in Wisconsin, along with a farmer carry and shooting your bow. So that's your heart rate's at a higher intensity, a higher level, shooting your bow and trying to be as accurate as possible under pressure. And then we did a short 10 target 3D course, which is what we call the harvest stage. So that was kind of the Quiver Shiver. We had 30 folks. We capped it at 30. Just being in the winter, you never know what the elements are going to be. We can manage that in a way that if it was going to be 30 below zero, we can manage that many people and get done in a reasonable amount of time. That's why the Quiver Shiver is always probably going to be a smaller event.
April 27th, you guys have the endurance match. This is one of those things that you were talking about just a second ago. You were doing those mountain bike races that were 12 hours, 24 hours. You guys are kind of integrating something into the hunting space with this endurance match. So tell us about this endurance match you have coming up in April.
Yeah, so again, for that event, this is also the second year in doing that event. That was going to be our very first event back in 2020, but because of the pandemic, we had to cancel that and change things up that year. But then we finally brought that back last year, and this is going to be the second year. We had around 60 competitors last year, which was phenomenal for the first time doing an event and nobody really knowing what the heck it was going to be. So that is an 8-hour event. I do have goals to make that longer into the future, to potentially make that a 12 or maybe even a 24-hour event. But for right now, we're sticking with 8 hours. So it's basically the objective is to complete as many laps as you can in 8 hours. The lap is, just for example, for last year, it's going to be a little different this year, but last year is about 1.5 miles, 2 miles per lap. We had, I think, about between 400 and 600 feet of elevation gain and loss per lap. It's at a ski hill, so it's not flat. We don't have mountains here, but we have some pretty steep hills, and we do have some pretty good elevation change. Along that lap, you have 2 target stations. And what's cool about our events is really the volunteers that we have. We would not be able to do these events if we didn't have an awesome group of volunteers. So one of the things that the volunteers do is that they're judges right at the target. So when you shoot, they automatically score your arrow right away. And if it is a heart or a lung, if it's a vital, if it's a kill shot, great, you get to pack up your gear and continue on the course. If it's a body or a miss, well, you have a challenge to do. Because just like in the elk woods, if you hit that animal in the body or if you miss, you're spending time at least looking for your arrow, tracking it. It's a lot of time and energy wasted.
Yep, there's a time delay for sure.
Yeah. So there's a challenge. So last year, one of the challenge was a sled drag. So for the deer target, it was probably about a 200 to 300 yard sled drag, and I want to say the sled was somewhere in the 80 to 100 pound range, and it took a toll. I mean, 5-6 hours into it, folks were getting cramped.
You don't want to do that sled drag 5 or 6 hours into it. You just want to hit in the vitals and move on.
Right. So the other challenge on the elk targets was an extra hill climb. So if you shot a bad arrow, it was probably, I don't know, maybe an 1/8 of a mile, maybe longer, where you had to go up a hill, go around an island of trees and come back and then go on. It's definitely not just a score penalty or anything like that. It's like, it's time and energy wasted if you make a bad shot. And there were a lot of bad shots.
Well, you get exhausted and it's hard to stay focused, but you've done these backcountry Western hunts and you realize like there are days where you wake up and your muscles are super fatigued. You've been at it. You're not sleeping great. A lot of times people don't realize like if you're sleeping at elevation, you're sleeping at 9,000, 10,000 feet. Your heart rate is elevated through the night. So your body's not recovering. You don't have as much oxygen. So like when you wake up, your butt is dragging in the morning, even if you live in Colorado, because people that live here, they live at 5,000, 6,000 feet. Well, it's a massive difference going up and sleeping at 10,000 feet. But, when you're doing one of these endurance races, I mean, I really, truly feel like if somebody's wanting to prepare for a backcountry hunt, doing an 8-hour slog where you are just hiking for miles, and then you have to be prepared to pull your bow out and execute a real shot. What are the distances that you are shooting at these targets? I mean, because I want to kind of get a gauge for, because if you're putting something under fatigue and you're shooting at 70, 80, 90 yards, like some of those like tack events, that's a really hard shot to make even when you're fresh. But what kind of distances is this realistic, like hunting scenarios or targets?
So for the endurance challenge and then also for the BMAC Games where there are actual competitions, we make the distances realistic. So last year, I think the furthest shot on the elk was maybe around 50 yards. The whitetail, the furthest shot was maybe around 30 yards. But here's a trick that I didn't tell anybody, and people are going to know this going into this year, is that after 2 hours, we moved the cones back further. So I got people used to, they didn't range. They're like, oh yeah, it's still the same distance. People were physically pissed off at me because they're like,
they feel like you cheated them.
You moved the targets. Why did you move I'm like, we did not move the targets. So it was like an ongoing thing. It's like, we did not touch the targets. It's like, well, it's a further shot. I'm like, we didn't touch the targets, but we did touch the cones. We did touch the shooting cones and move those back further. So there was a lot of penalties in the, around hour 2 and hour 3 when people didn't realize that I moved the shooting cones. That's why you should always range your shot when you can, right?
Yeah.
So with that said, yeah, for the endurance event, we make the distances realistic. There's not going to be anything, at least according to what I think. I think, a 50-yard shot on an elk, that should be a realistic shot that you should be able
100%,
to.
100%.
So,
I've had years where I've been dealing with injuries and certain things where, like I've had to limit even that. Like in 2019, I was dealing with a major shoulder injury and struggled to hold with any stability. And I was like, okay, I'm limited to 30 yards. Like this is going to be a challenge. And thankfully that year I had an elk come into like 9 yards and was able to get it done. But, every year those limitations change. But I mean, goal wise, you want to be able to comfortably take that shot at 50 yards and feel confident that you can make it happen, even under fatigue. All right, let's kind of race ahead. You've got King of the Mound coming up. That's a multi-day event. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so we can kind of lump the King of the Mound and the King of the Hill 3D into one here. So the King of the Hill 3D is an event that we've done since year 1. So this is going to be the 5th year doing that event. And that is, for a lack of a better analogy, it's like a total archery challenge. It's set up with multiple courses. What we call unleashed times, where you sign up for a shoot time with you and your group. Extreme shots, long shots, steep angles. I came up with that event because I, like many others here in the Midwest, would travel all across the countryside doing these cool events that other organizations were doing. I'm like, well, if they're not coming here, I'm going to do it myself. So that's essentially why I started that event. And the first year we had 100 competitors, 100 shooters come out. Last year we had almost 500. So
wow.
That's why now we have the King of the Mound. So we have 2 events. The King of the Mound is at a different ski hill in west central Wisconsin, not too far from Eau Claire.
Okay.
How you see that. And then the King of the Hill 3D, which is where all of our other events are at and where we've been doing events since day 1 at Tyrrell Basin Ski Resort here in the southern part of Wisconsin. And
just west of Madison.
Yep, just west of Madison, yep. So that's where most of our events are, the endurance event, the Quiver Shiver, the games, all that stuff. So the King of the Hill and the King of the Mound, those are fun shoots. We give out scorecards. We don't collect scorecards. It's bragging rights for you and your buddies. And it's just a great time. Last year we had 13 different states coming here. So it's not just Wisconsin folks. It's mostly folks east of the Mississippi, because I think folks west of the Mississippi have a chip on their shoulder and feel like we have nothing to offer here in Wisconsin. So it's mostly folks east of the Mississippi that are coming to those events. And it's a grassroots style event, and that's kind of what all my events are. They're never going to be like walking into a NASCAR race with 1,000 different sponsors and all these other. It's for the bow hunter, and it's for them only. If influencers want to come and participate, great. I'm not going to pay you to come. So you can stop reaching out and saying, I want to come, but you got to pay me. I'm not doing that. This is for the true Wisconsin and Midwest bow hunters that want to have a good time. It's myself, my wife, and a couple key volunteers that are making these events go. And it wouldn't be possible without them, but it wouldn't be possible without all the awesome folks that come out to these events and make it fun. So
I love that, Brian. I hope more and more people get connected to it, because I love that kind of community. I would say there's a similar type of event that they're doing out here with the Western Hunt Fest. That is a super just awesome, fun grassroots, but it has kind of a pack out challenge associated with it, that you're not shooting a bow, but you have to carry your bow. but you have to do about 300 pounds worth of different sandbags and do a course that might be, somewhere between 1 mile and 2 miles. And if you want to try to load that up in one, and they've had multiple people try to do that, and then like midway through start stripping stuff off, because it is a timed event, like how fast you can do the pack out challenge. So super cool. But it is just that fun grassroots. There's a handful of vendors and sponsors that kind of come that are just there to support the community. All right. And that takes us to the BMAC Games.
The BMAC Games is in August. It's always been in June, I guess. And the reason we moved it is because that last weekend in June has always typically been the first nice weekend here in Wisconsin where people want to get outside. Weddings and graduations and all that stuff. So it's always been kind of a tough weekend where I get a lot of folks to say, I want to do that event, but I got this going on, or I got that going on. So we moved it to August, realizing that it is going to cut out some folks. But again, those Western folks have that chip on their shoulder. They don't want to come out here anyways. So we moved it to August for multiple reasons. One is a lot of people that have done that event always say, I trained so hard for that event, and then I kind of fall off the wagon, and then hunting season is 2 months away. So we're doing that event kind of right before hunting season, so it just matches up with people's training schedule for that event. They can train hard for it, and then they can taper after that event right into September, which is a couple weeks away. For their hunting season. So that's really the main reason why we did that. But that event was our very first event that we've done, and what we're kind of known for. I still run into people that are like, I'd love to come to your event, but I'm just not fit. Or, if you had events that we could just shoot our bows, that'd be great. I'm like, we do. So the BMAC Games kind of we have that stereotype where all of our events are for the hunter athlete, which they're not. But the BMAC Games is. The BMAC Games is a legitimate competition. It's a 4-stage event where we start out with what we call the Beast course. And that's roughly a 4-mile course with about 2,000 foot of elevation gain and loss. We have targets that you're shooting on that course. You're carrying a weighted pack. We have a spotting challenge, which in the past is what we've done. We've put up 4 different playing cards on trees. And there's a line that you have to stand behind, and you have to use your binoculars to find them and then write down what those cards are.
Wow.
So, for example, for that challenge, it's a pass-fail. If you get any of them wrong, you have a 10-minute addition to your time.
Okay.
And then obviously we have the targets where you shoot. Those events, you get a bigger penalty if you get a body than a miss. So we don't have, unlike the endurance event where it's a challenge you got to do right away. The BMAC Games is, we have too many people and it's just too complex to be able to do that. So you get a time addition if you shoot a bad shot. If you shoot a heart, though, you get time taken off. So you get a bonus if you shoot a good shot on those. So we got the Beast course, which this year it's named after Stealth Rig. Stealth Rig is our premier sponsor, so it's the Stealth Rig course. Then we have the what's next? The Pursuit stage, and that's again where we've done kind of a higher intensity. It's a sled drag. It might be a hoist. It might be a farmer carry. All movements that are relatable to what we would experience hunting, whether it be maybe elk hunting or Midwest hunting, or a combination of those.
Sure.
So I try not to do, everybody's like, well, I don't want to do burpees. We have not done any burpees. I think there's only 1 year we had to do burpees, and that's because something happened we as kind of a backup. But I try to do challenges that are functional, that relate to what we do as hunters.
Yeah, you might actually experience some level of that in your physical fitness and training and preparation that would play into hunting. I get that. Where burpees, you don't really do a lot of burpees in the field.
Right, exactly. When you take a nap, I guess you're kind of getting up and standing up. So after the Pursuit stage, we have let me see what we do. Pack out stage. I kind of change it up every year. So this is kind of going off of what we did last year.
Okay.
Then we do a pack out stage, and it's 80 pounds. It's 1.5 miles to 2 miles. Again, with probably 800 to 1,000 feet of elevation gain and loss. It's just what it is. It's a pack out challenge. You're trying to move that weight as quickly as you can. We time you loading the pack as well too. So
Yep.
typically we have the weight set aside, because the other thing, it's all about efficiency. You'll see on some of my Instagram posts, efficiency kills in the woods and efficiency wins competitions. And it's being efficient with your gear. We train so hard to be as fit as we can, but then we don't spend any time working with our gear of how to load your bow or how to load a heavy pack or where's my rangefinder, where's my release. You got to have a system, and stick to that system. So that's kind of what the BMAC Games is all about, challenging folks on how smooth and efficient their system is. Because that's ultimately what all these events are about. It's about helping folks become better bow hunters. Yeah, they're fun. It's a challenge. It's a competition. But at the end of the day, I want to, I guess, stress people, pressure people, challenge people in a situation that you normally wouldn't have unless if you're actually hunting, so that you do have that mental and physical stress, so that when you are in that situation with a bull bugling, 10 yards from you face on, you can maybe handle that situation better than if you had never handled that before.
That stage 3 is the pack out. Stage 4?
Yep. Stage 4 is the harvest stage. Historically, it's been a 20 target 3D course. And again, it's all based off of points. If you shoot a heart, you get time taken off of your overall time. Typically, a lung shot is a wash. A miss is a couple minutes added on. A body is usually a couple more minutes than a miss added on. So,
okay.
And I typically try to in the harvest stage. By that time, we know where people are grouped together, first through last. So I group folks, first through fourth, they're in a group. So they have that extra pressure of, it's.
Yeah, you're shooting next to the leaders. I was kind of hoping, though, that when you were saying the harvest stage, that there was going to be some kind of a chili cook-off, barbecue ribs or something, that it's the celebrate. Now we're bringing home the bacon. We already did the pack-out challenge. Now how do we cook it in the kitchen? But
Right.
I definitely appreciate the shooting aspect of it.
Well, with that said, though, both the endurance event and the BMAC Games, your registration does include a fabulous dinner at the endurance event that Tyrell Basin will be making us. So the awards ceremony and stuff we'll be eating, we'll be having a good time. The BMAC Games, the registration is not open yet for the BMAC Games, but odds are that's a 2-day event. The awards ceremony will be probably Sunday morning after the last stage. We do the shooting as the last stage Sunday morning, and then we'll have a brunch and we'll do awards and all that stuff. So it's a great time. It's great to get all these like-minded guys and gals hanging out and telling stories and becoming new friends. There's a lot of folks that became friends and now they're hunting together out west. For last year, there was a group of 4 that went out west first time. Any of them went west and they all met at one of our events. So
I love it, Brian. And I hope more and more Hunt League people that kind of live in that Midwest or in and around you, and even people from coast to coast, that they could come and kind of experience that. I definitely want to make BMAC, all of your events, different things that some of our community starts to engage in. And I'd love to kind of extend that invitation to your community, join the Hunt League community, and just kind of keep that going throughout the year, so we can kind of celebrate the wins, not just at a game, but after you've done all the training, after you've done some of these fun events, taking it to the field and being able to highlight and share some of those stories. That's always a blast. All right, we are coming into our closing minutes, but before we leave, I want to talk about recent hunts you did, because we're tying in this fitness, this archery. So this was a bull that you were able to harvest. Was this Colorado? Was this Wyoming? Where was this bull harvested?
Yeah, that was actually in Colorado. That would have been 2 years ago. So 2022, my buddy John and I, Johnny Love 2019 on Instagram. He's kind of my #1 volunteer, my right-hand man. He helps me with a lot of different stuff. Talking previously about those backcountry hunts where you're kind of stuck in one place. This was I think this is the 3rd different spot that we moved our base camp from, and just the importance of being mobile, talking about, hunting tactics, I think is critical now with more and more bow hunters in the mountains, just being mobile and moving around we had hunted there a day or two, I think 2 days, and I finally figured out what was going on and how the elk were moving and all that stuff. So I was able to harvest that guy kind of late morning, and so we took care of him. Took us a while to find it. I'm colorblind, so I don't see red at all. And,
no, I love that because I am too, and it's like the hardest thing in the world for me to track blood. I'm always like praying, like, man, when I release an arrow, like I really need this animal to die like within eyesight, because if it comes down to tracking blood and I have to find red on top of green leaves, like it is so hard for me.
Yes, so I've become a good tracker in my years of hunting. I've become a good tracker in the sense of following their tracks and looking for different stuff, more so than just utilizing blood. But it just where he died, he basically, I heard him crash. I just couldn't see him. He went over this little bank and in a lot of deadfall and tall grass and stuff where things have been growing up, because it looks like wind or something took a bunch of trees down. So it's super thick. So it just took a while to find him, but very, very blessed to have harvested him. So fast forward, we got him broken down. It was late afternoon, and a storm was starting to roll in. So it was about 2 miles from base camp that we had to go up to.
Okay.
From where I shot him. The first mile was just, we've all experienced it. The Colorado deadfall, and just, I mean, it's not something you want to go through, especially with an elk on your back.
Yeah.
And it's starting to rain.
And that's where you can really get injured carrying a heavy pack over deadfall. Yeah.
So we each took half the elk and got up to this old logging road. So that logging road is about a mile from where I killed him. And then from that, the last mile was easy walking. It was on an old logging road up to where our base camp was. So we yo-yoed him up to that point. And then by then it was almost evening. It was starting to get dark. It was starting to lightning. I mean, the storm was almost on top of us. And I'm like, and John knew, because I was planting the seed as we made those 2 trips back. I'm like, the storm's coming, and it'd be nice for you to be able to hunt tomorrow morning and not to have to come back and get, a second load or anything. I was like, I don't know. You think we can take this all out in one trip? And he's like, he was just kind of quiet. He didn't really say much because he knew
he knew the pain that was about to bring.
Right. So we get back to with both loads to where kind of our drop point was, and mind you, we had our bows, we had our gear with us to stay at least one night, because that's kind of our thing. We have base camp, and then we kind of have enough gear. We have a shelter or whatever. So if we want to spend the night out there, if we get on and we get far away from camp, we can stay. So we had, I don't know, maybe 30 pounds worth of gear, 25, 30 pounds worth of gear, plus our bow and all that stuff.
Sure.
And I was like, John, I think we can do it. I know we can. And he's like, what? Why? And I said, John, because we can. Because we can.
Because we must, John. Because we must.
This is why we train all year. This is we have the ability to do
because
it.
You have initial ascent packs that can carry that weight.
If we didn't have, here's a plug for IA packs. I mean, really, they may not be the prettiest packs. They may not have the best compartments and all this stuff like some of the other packs and all that stuff. But I don't really care about that. I want a pack that when it comes time to it, it will do what you want it to do. And the IA pack, I think, is the only pack so far that I have used that can do it, because we loaded up the entire elk between the two of us. John's a little older than I, and he kind of had a bad back, so I might have had a little bit more than him. Plus our gear. I mean, it would not, to say that our packs were 200 pounds, that's being conservative probably, because when you think about it, it's an entire elk. I mean, it wasn't like a giant elk, but it was a decent sized bull elk with 30 pounds of gear, your bow. So I think at least 200 pounds. I'm not going to say. Did you
bring the head out as well?
Yeah, in the head.
Yeah.
And that last mile was a long mile, and it was raining. I mean, it was so cool though. I mean, we were drenched because it was pouring out. The last half of that, it really started to come down. And but to take maybe 5 or 10 steps, and thank God for those peak trekking poles. You take 5 or 10 steps, and you got to lean over and just take that pressure off, and then 5 or 10 more steps and lean over, and and you can feel your spine just starting to crush.
So let me ask you this: how long did that take? Because I've sometimes wondered, should I have done it in 2 loads? Because you can move quicker, maybe more efficiently with less, or are you glad you did it in 1?
I'm glad we did it in 1 in the sense of the storm and not having to go back that next morning and make the trip back down. It took my goal, because I knew it was a mile, my goal is to do it in an hour. And I think I did it in 58 minutes, that last mile.
Okay.
So 1 mile an hour with 200 plus pounds on your back. Yeah. It was very painful. So we slept in the next morning. It was still storming.
I was going to say, did you still miss your hunt? Because if you do that, that is so brutal. Yeah. I don't know that I'd be feeling up for it. You know what? Let's just take a break this next morning.
But we did get back out hunting though. But it was what took the longest was just getting it from the kill site up to the checkpoint or drop point, because of all the clear cuts and not kind of knowing exactly where to go. And you're like, oh, I think I can go that way. That looks clear. And you get over there and nope, we got to turn around and go back. And so that's what took the longest. If we didn't have a nice old logging road to walk up, I wouldn't have taken that out in one trip, because that would have been just.
Sure.
I have short legs, so John's tall. John's 6'4". I'm 5'8". John's just stepping over a lot of these logs where I'm having to climb over them. So
and you're crawling on your belly under him, and he's just stepping down.
Exactly.
Oh, I love it. Well, that is the truth of functional training for these backcountry elk hunts. I think some people will underestimate that, and you do that one time and you realize I either never want to do that again because it is so painful and so difficult, or you realize if I'm going to continue to do this, I've got to train year round to make this thing work. So I love what you're doing with Beast Mode Archery Challenge. If people want to connect with you, if they want to get registered and signed up for your events, what are some of the best ways for hunters to connect with you, Brian, and the Beast Mode Archery Challenge?
Yeah, you bet. Just a website, beastmodearcherychallenge.com, that has obviously all the information on our events. Registration is all through that. So that's, if you want to learn more, that's the best way to learn more about our specific events. I try to be as active as I can on social media. So Beast Mode Archery on Instagram, and then obviously things just post automatically to Facebook, Beast Mode Archery on that. Try to get back to people as quickly as possible. I'm one of those guys where if I wasn't doing this, I probably wouldn't be on social media. So, but I try to post as much as I can, because, and that's the thing with social media and my page, I post for the people that do our events or that are looking to do our events. I'm not there to try to influence you with something or sell you something or whatever it is. It's pretty much strictly all the footage, all the pictures, all that stuff is stuff from our events. So you can find us on that. I am GFB Outdoors, Get Fit with Brian Outdoors on Instagram. Is a little bit more of kind of my training stuff and personal stuff. So if you want to follow me on that, great. If not, no hard feelings.
You're okay. Yeah, I'm pretty similar with the social media stuff. I can't tell you the last time I've posted, and my wife always gets on to me. She's like, you got to be posting. I'm like, I freaking hate posting. I never want to be on there. So I get it. It's funny. But I mean, it at the same time, I've really gained quite a few friends and connected with people all around the country through it. So I'm not going to dog it, because it actually has served a purpose and has added value at times. But the idea of feeling like I need to post, and I've got to keep putting stuff out there so that people can find it. And beating the Instagram algorithm so that more than 3 people actually see it. I'm like, I don't have time for that.
Yeah, I'm not playing that game. I don't want to be a part of that game. So, but I hear you. It's social can be actually a full-time job. and I just choose not to play that game, and I'm not paying somebody to play that game for me. So what you get is what you get, I guess, is what I'm saying.
No, I love it. Well, Brian, I know you've got clients and other people that you got to get to training. So I really appreciate your time today. Excited to share this episode with the HuntLeague community. So thank you for introducing BMAC Games. Can't wait to join you at one of your events here soon. It's going to be a blast, brother.
Awesome. I appreciate your time. Thank you.